Hey, what is up everybody? It's me, Foolish D, and on this episode of Get Into It, I'm gonna tell you all about Destiny 2 and why you and your friends should love it. Starting right off, I'm gonna go over the three classes you can choose from in Destiny, the Titan, the Warlock, and the Hunter. I'll be discussing their playstyles, but you'll also be able to see some additional information on screen. Starting with the Titan is your classic tanky bruiser fighter. Titans like to run in and do as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, and hopefully not die in the process, but these types of things are never certain. The Titan's main stat is Resilience, which as you can probably guess means they can take a lot more of a beating than a normal Guardian. Like all classes, the Titan has three subclasses, the Sentinel, the Striker, and the Sunbreaker, each of which corresponds to one of the game's three element types, being Void, Arc, and Solar respectively. Each one of these subclasses has three of its own subclasses that change how you can play your Guardian. The Warlock is basically a glorified space wizard, and it is just as fun as it sounds. Hurling space magic from a distance or pulling a Palpatine and zapping them at close range, the Warlock is a versatile mage class that happens to be my favorite in the game. The Warlock's main stat is recovery, meaning that while you might not be, the healthiest Guardian, if you just give it a couple of seconds, you can get it all back very quickly, letting you go back to the fight. The Warlock's three subclasses are the Voidwalker, the Stormcaller, and the Dawnblade, each of which also correspond to Void, Arc, and Solar respectively. And again, these three subclasses each have their own three branches that you can pick from in order to spice up your gameplay. Last and probably least is the Hunter. And the Hunter is like an assassin or rogue that rewards sneaking around and carefully placed shots as its preferred playstyle, being the most mobile class while also being the squishiest. The Hunter's main stat is mobility, which means that Hunters can run faster and jump higher than any other class, letting you escape bad situations or even outmaneuver your opponents into them. The Hunter's three subclasses are the Night Stalker, the Arc Strider, and the Gunslinger, which as you may have guessed correspond to Void, Arc, and Solar respectively, and yet again there are three variations for each of these subclasses, each of which has a unique twist to it. Moving on to the game itself, we're going to start off with the Crucible, a high-octane multiplayer PvP environment that is one of the game's main appeals. You retain all of your abilities and weapons when going into the Crucible, with the only real change being that level advantages are turned off so new players don't get completely railed when they try to play. At the end of every game, you'll see the final leaderboard to see who did best on each team, and the loot will be dispersed to the players. And it's pretty random, it really doesn't matter how well you did, you kind of just get what you get. And some of the loot is Crucible specific, meaning that unique weapons and armor that you can only get from the Crucible itself. The Crucible has an array of game types to choose from, like Clash, Supremacy, Survival, Control, and Countdown to name a few. These game modes are more or less the same ones you'll find in other games. For example, Clash is like Team Deathmatch from Call of Duty, or Slay from Halo, the only objective being, of course, to get more kills than the other guys in order to win. There's another game mode on that list called Control. It's just a little more unique, where the objective is to capture control points. While the points are under your team's control, you'll get a score multiplier for kills. For example, if you have all 3 points, you get 3 points for 1 kill instead of 1 for 1, A little more bang for your buck there. Every once in a while, another game mode will pop up called the Iron Banner, which is more or less the same as Clash, however, level advantages are turned on, meaning that if you go against weaker opponents, you can literally wipe the floor with them. Iron Banner will bring with it unique NPCs and vendors to talk to, as well as new missions, objectives, and most importantly, loot. Loot that can only be acquired from Iron Banner, and only while it decides to stick around, because Iron Banner is a time-sensitive event. The Crucible has been around since the original Destiny, and it'll hopefully be there until the series is over, because it offers hours of enjoyment and replayability, and it's personally one of my favorite parts of the game. Gambit is a new game mode in Destiny, releasing upon the launch of its biggest DLC, Forsaken. It takes elements from both PvP and PvE to create this weird amalgamation that really does seem to work. In Gambit, players will start off each round by hunting down and killing basic PvE enemies, but in this game mode the enemies drop motes of light upon death, which can be picked up by the players. Once you have enough motes, you can drop them in your bank to add them to your team's total, and dropping 5, 10, or 15 motes will drop a blocker at your opponent's bank, preventing them from making any motes themselves until all the blockers are defeated. At 75 motes, instead of invading, you summon your Primeval. a massive enemy that your team must kill in order to win that round. To keep things interesting though, every time a team takes away 33% of the primeval's health, the opposing team can send an invader with the goal of killing enemy players this time in order to heal their primeval. This can happen over and over as the primeval gets damaged and healed. In order to make sure the match actually ends, players will rack up stacks of Primeval Slayer, which increases the damage your team deals to your primeval, and you get more and more stacks as your team and the enemy team fight each other. You can either go into Gambit alone or with a team of up to 4 friends, and in this game mode, communication is definitely going to be to your advantage. Gambit might be the new kid on the block for Destiny, but it has a special place in my heart, and I hope it continues to be a fun experience for me and my friends. Strikes are Destiny's main PvE content. You can go into a strike with up to 3 teammates, thus forming your fire team for that strike. Simply put, strikes are where you and your fire team fight through hordes of enemies, completing objectives along the way, solving the occasional puzzle, until you get to the end where you'll face off against a strike boss. Each strike has its own unique strike boss with unique mechanics and patterns to keep things interesting. The concept of strikes is a simple one, but it manages to stay interesting because there are so many of them, 15 in total, and because that every week the strikes will have new modifiers that can help or hinder your fire team's progress. The really interesting thing about strikes, though, is the Nightfall strike. Every week a random strike will be selected as the Nightfall, which is a super hard max level randomly modified strike that is one of the most challenging PvE experiences in the game. It also happens to give some of the best loot, with a high chance for extremely rare items to drop, as well as strike-specific weapons that you can only get from a specific strike and only upon completion of that strike's Nightfall. Forges are another new game mode added very recently in the Black Armor DLC. In a Forge run, the objective is to survive an arena-type encounter while killing specific enemies that drop radiant batteries, which you can then, toss into a forge to power it up. It's kinda weird. Do this for round 1, and then it's the same kind of idea for round 2, except the enemies are much tougher, and different enemies now hold the radiant batteries. After round 2 comes the boss round, where a large forge boss will spawn and you must kill it in order to complete the forge and claim your reward. In addition to the forges themselves, came a vendor that you can complete missions for, who will give you an increased chance at getting better rewards from the forges, which usually translates to specific weapons from forges that are specific to forges. For the final part of this video, I'm going to tell you how to get someone else into Destiny. So what you want to do is say something like this. Hey, do you want to get Destiny? We can play together. I heard it's pretty fun and you definitely get your money's worth on playtime. It's really big with streamers, and for good reason too, not to mention that the player base is still going strong this long after release. That's gotta be a good sign. I've been looking for friends to play with, and I really think you'd enjoy it, or at the very least, it's a new game for us to play, you know? And I know it's got a bad reputation because of all the microtransactions, but that was all because of Activision, and Bungie just split from them not so long ago, so now's a pretty good time to get into it since Bungie's in control. Alrighty guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below. I will love any feedback or tips you have on these here videos. Either way, see you guys next time.